Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be tier listing every helicopter available in the default version of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Let's get started. First up is the H-125. This Airbus helicopter is definitely a popular choice for all things career. It'll also be the first one you probably get the chance to fly. It is also a rather simple helicopter. You look around here, we got a couple buttons. You can see with some simple displays in the middle. We have a GPS that kind of works sitting down here in the bottom. We've got a bunch of switches in places you don't normally look for, including them being in the off position when you do the automatic start. And of course, you have a landing light switch that you can click here that does not work with the binding that you set your controls up to. But enough of that, let's see what this thing can actually do. So when we give it some power here, of course, so you'll notice it starts to get a little loose. We get a couple feet off the ground, and the first thing I always want to do when I'm testing a new helicopter is see what it's like in hover. First thing I'm noticing here is the fact that it does have a pretty strong stability system in it. You can see that basically the controls I'm putting in are basically being counteracted by whatever's going on outside. I'm also noticing that I'm kind of hanging to the right a little bit here. Like there's a distinctive right hang to this particular helicopter, but that happens sometimes. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and give this thing a quick little hit, see what we have to do for translational lift. We're pretty lightweight here, so I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't take much. And one thing I noticed right away with this one, of course, is it's got this weird little up and down wobble that it always seems to do. It kind of does this little up and down. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it always seems to be there. Sound effect-wise, it sounds pretty good. I can definitely tell that my character's got a nice pair of headphones. Handling-wise, very, very, very responsive. It takes very, very little to get this thing to kind of go, and we'll kind of spin it around. We're over here at Windham Airport in lovely, lovely Windham, Connecticut. Just kind of zipping around, seeing what this helicopter can do. We'll try it with the good old-fashioned quick stop real fast. Right now, I can see I'm at about 30% torque. Obviously, like I said, we're not carrying too much as far as cargo or anything along those lines. This is just a matter of kind of getting a feel for it and seeing what it's done. All right, let's go ahead and kill the collective and put it into a quick. Whoa! Whoa! That does not like that. So we always need a little bit of collective in this one. Otherwise, you're going to scrape some skids there. All right, let's go ahead and bring it into something a little bit safer. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me right there. I'm liking that. Go hold it in a nice gentle hover. It's sinking a bit, sinking a bit. The response is very slow, but it is stable enough. Like I say, I'm not working too hard here. I can see them bobbing up and down, but I am at a ground effect, so it's going to be a little bit tougher to hover. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. We're going to pop that one right here at the lovely letter B. Not too bad, not too good. Definitely something around the middle of the pack. It definitely will get you where you need to go. It'll serve you well, and it is a pretty stable hovering helicopter. Let's see what else we got. Uh-oh, this isn't a good start. There we go. Next up, we have the Bell 407. This helicopter is a classic helicopter. It is also a very buggy nightmare as of February 2025 here. You can't actually start the helicopter if you have the traditional flight model enabled. It's just not possible. But let's ignore that for a second and take this thing for a spin, shall we? Now, this is a helicopter I'm very familiar with, going all the way back to the OG Simcopter game back in the 1990s. One of the things I always respected about Bell 407 is it just handles like a Huey that's just a little bit too heavy. One thing I noticed right away is the controls are much, much slower. The H-125 I could be pretty rough with. This thing's got a nice natural stiffness to it, which kind of takes a little bit of the shake out of my hand here. I notice I'm basically giving it just a tiny bit of front cyclic, and this thing wants to rip down the runway. Take a look at my torque reading there. I'm only about 37 torque, which is not much. And of course, this thing has a much longer endurance than some of its competitors. It is still a turbine helicopter, so you got all the fun things that go with it. One thing I'm noticing is we don't have that weird right turn thing going on here, but I am having to work my anti-torque pedals a little more aggressively than I'd expect in flight. The other thing I respect now is I'm doing about 70. This thing is moving sweet, but I really, really like it. So let's go ahead and be a little rough with it now. I'm going to go ahead and pull it this way. Back on the collective, we're just going to let the helicopter basically stall out in a turn here. We're going to come ripping down the taxiway like idiots. There it goes. Oh, that's nice. I like that. I like that. So come down to dive. I'm at 0 collective right now, and I notice at 0 collective, if I pull my nose up, I still have a little bit of authority, something that it did not get in the Airbus, which is actually kind of nice. Let's see how it holds in a hover here. We'll go ahead and give it a little bit of a quick stop. Oh, it's got that aggressive kind of ground snap there. And it's definitely, it's pretty stiff. Not exactly what I'd expect like a helicopter. Helicopters tend to be a little bit more sensitive than this. But as you can see, it does hold a hover pretty darn well. Let's see. We're going to put the Bell 407 at a D. And of course, you're sitting here going, why would you do that? Why would you put it so low? Because you can't even start the thing. Fix your bugs, folks. If ever there were a helicopter inspired by the game Garry's Mod, this would be it. You can see everything is just kind of slapped haphazardly on the top. You can see that giant rotor blade, and of course, the absurdly heavy lifting capacity of this helicopter. Looking around the interior, we've got a nice full interior with all sorts of handles, all in the best sort of places. I find it a little strange I'm sitting on the left side of the helicopter, but I'm not going to stress about that. And I love the fact you even have a little load seat here so you can enjoy the trip as you go smacking everything into every tree as you pass underneath it during those lovely career missions. One thing I'm a little nervous about is I got a lot of stuff sitting there in the red, but I haven't done anything yet, so I'm kind of suspicious as to what's going on there. So let's go ahead and give it a little bit of collective and see what it does. We are mostly unloaded here. Oh my goodness. That collective is up not at all. So one of the things we always want to evaluate in helicopters is a lot of different things. We want to do utility, we want to do ease of use, ease of hover. And one of the things I'm going to say real quick here is even though it's a very stable helicopter, because of its incredible amount of inertia, it actually loses a little bit of the helicopter twitch, which makes it a little bit more interesting to try to respond with. And you can see me kind of dancing in the wind a little bit. Enough of that though, let's go ahead and give it a little more collective, tip forward, and see what this thing, oh my goodness, this thing handles like a bus. Get ourselves out of translational lift there, a little bit of that right foot. Actually surprised it needs as much as it does. My goodness, does this thing go. Now, this is the first helicopter I think I've flown so far that gives me nice confidence. And, it does have a lot of weight to it. It does have kind of that funky inertia that you're going to be getting around with helicopters like this. But this is nice. I don't mind this at all. I actually feel like I'm flying. And this thing is an absolute blast in VR as well. So let's go ahead and take us down the runway here, and I'll be a little less than polite to it, but hey, that's part of the fun, as I like to say. Come on down this way. Oh man, we're doing 80 knots with something this huge. This really is Gary's mod. All right, let's see what we can do with this here. So the first thing I'm investigating here is what happens at 0 collective at forward speed here. Come out of that turn. I'm going to go pull the collective to 0, lift the nose up. Oh, that's nice. I like how it drops to the right there. That is a big improvement. A lot of the other ones that just sort of fall out of the sky even with forward speed. Let's go ahead and see how tough this thing is going to be to hover. I'm going to bring that nose up a little bit. It likes to get sinky real fast. Real fast. There we go. Not bad. I like the fact the airspeed indicator isn't keeping up with me. Whoa. This is a little harder to hover. This is a lot harder to hover. It actually has a tendency to wander backwards. I don't know if that's the wind or this my incompetence, but my nose is about 5 or 6 degrees down right now, and I'm holding my place more or less on the ground here. So yeah, it definitely got a ding you as far as that goes, but man, this thing's nice. I like the controls. It's got a working GPS on it. It's got a couple handles. Documentation could be a little bit better, but I can work with this helicopter. All right, we're going to slide this one right up into the A. Could have a little bit more in-depth systems. I think there's a couple other little bits and bobs that could be a little more dynamic, but that is definitely an A-tier helicopter. Next up is the brilliantly clever R66 turbine. For those of you not familiar with the R66, you take a R22, then you take an R44, and then you put some seats in it, put a turbine on it, and you get this thing. One thing I will say right away is I feel like I'm sitting awfully low in the helicopter here. I don't know if you notice it, but when I look over my co-pilot here, I am a solid head below where she's sitting here. If I put my head up here, which is where I would normally operate the helicopter, that looks a little bit better. So I guess they just made the default view kind of down and over like this, which is kind of surprising. Now, I've flown the Cohen Sims version of this helicopter many times, and it's fantastic. It's twitchy. It's everything that you want it to be. And one thing I'll really get a kick out of here, we're actually using the spray model here, so we can actually run around and spray some neighborhood kids that are riding around and shooting fireworks off the 4th of July. Now, at R66, anything in the Robinson clan that's this small is going to be known for its twitchiness. And one of the things I'm going to be interested in, other than the fact I've got this thing more or less in a perfect hover here, is the fact that it should be a little twitchy. And it's actually really balanced. There are hydraulic controls in an R66, so we're getting a little bit of that there. So I think that's probably what they're simulating. The sound is pretty good. The turbine's a little noisy, but nothing too bad here. So we're going to go ahead and give it some blast here. Wow. Oh, that just goes. That's nice. Yeah, this is what I think of when I think of helicopters. I do have some helicopter time in the real world, not a whole lot or anything like that. But my experience is very similar to this, where it just kind of goes. And I notice every once in a while the little red light's getting up there. Why am I having a temperature pressure warning here? Let's go take a look here and see what's getting cooked here. Oh, my apologies. I'll pull that down a little bit. Being a little rough with the engines, maybe all that spray gear is all weighing us down. This is nice. This is what I think of when I think of helicopters, other than this really goofy seating position here, which has got me nice and low. We'll go over the lake real quick, and we'll come swing around for a quick stop and see what it is. There's a really good confidence with this helicopter. When I take my turns, it has that nice little bite to it. I can hear the blade slap kind of catching because I'm being a little rough with the blades. Instrumentation, kind of simplified. That's okay, though. We do have that GPS. I call it the fake GPS. The people at Flight Sim didn't want to do like a fancy like a 430 or anything like that. So they're this like half 650 GPS, and I wish it was a little bit more functional. Range on this thing's a little less than what you're probably used to on some of the other ones, but it is a this is nice. This is a good combination of smooth, good combination of sensitive. This is what I'm looking for in a helicopter. Coming around this way, I'm going to go ahead and do one of these real quick. Let's see what it's going to do. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Anybody know what that is? I'm not going to worry about it too much. All right, let's go see what happens if we get going real hard here. Got another little RPM warning. Nice. Just building up a little bit of speed here because I want to see this thing at a quick stop. It's always something I like to check in a helicopter. You can see how much I'm having to work the control yoke there. The cyclic, I should say. All right, let's go do my stop. I'm going to pull the collectives to 0. Collectives at 0. Oh, this one gets sinky. This one gets sinky. All right, that's what we're looking for here. We'll go ahead and pull it that way. Let that nose come up a little bit. Catch it before it starts to twist on us. A lot more collective than that. Oh, my goodness, it's a lot of collective. I feel like I'm fighting the stability control with the anti-torque pedals there. But again, I'm not exactly being gentle with this helicopter. All right, this is a bit of a conundrum. I don't know how I feel about this. I kind of wish the avionics were a little more in-depth. And I also miss the fact that I can't put the little cup on the little fuel handle there. It's one of those little details that the good folks over at Cohen Sims in 2020 did. How am I going to rate this one? This is tough. This is really one of the better helicopters, but I just wish it just had a little bit more detail. I'm going to pop it up there with the Sky Crane, because it is a nice helicopter. All right, up next is the Airbus H225. If ever there were a UFO in helicopter shape, this would probably be it. This thing is everything modern about helicopters packed into one not quite complete package. Let's go ahead and pop inside here. Instrumentation, absolutely gorgeous, if any of it worked. Now, a lot of it does work, and there's switches above our heads, there's switches below our heads, and there's all sorts of stuff. We've done videos on this sucker in the past, and so many cool systems and so much potential for all these different options. Yet, when you hold your mouse over so many of the different switches, it'll just remind you that this particular component is in-op, or it just doesn't do anything when you put your mouse over it, which is, it is what it is. It also features one of the first non-operational automatic pilot systems for helicopters at this particular time, but don't you worry, they're working on all those things now. This helicopter also has another fun quality. I'm going to go double check. This is AFCS is disengaged. I'm pretty sure I turned that all on. Let me go ahead and play with this. It did not start for me the first time I did it, but that's okay. Engine pre-flight. I still got some warnings about that, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. This one is one of the unique helicopters that I could do really stupid stuff like pretend I'm playing a Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on the front wheel there with hydraulics. But that's not what we're here to test. This thing is a UFO. It also has something incredible for a helicopter, and that is a retractable landing gear. You can actually push a button, and the landing gear will get sucked up inside of the helicopter rather than basically the way they normally do. It also has this very, very interesting quality where I can point the helicopter somewhere. Let me put it right here, and I am no longer holding the controls. My hand is off the cyclic, and it will hold it there just like that, which is kind of neat, if you ask me. That's not something I usually think of with helicopters. When I think of helicopters, I think of these helicopters that basically, you're constantly making adjustments here and making adjustments here. But there is another quality which I find interesting, is because this helicopter is so complex and is kind of an early version, a lot of things don't work. For example, that would definitely be helpful as far as determining what direction we're traveling from and things like that. It would also be helpful if, we have some displays. But there's also a bit of a frame rate issue. In case you're ever curious what I've got here, I've got myself a i9 1450K. I've got myself 64 gig of RAM, solid state drives, and a GeForce 4090 on kind of the default settings there. And you can see that my frame rate is getting a little chunky as I'm kind of ripping around here. That said, this helicopter is incredible as far as functionality goes. Yes, some things do not work, but the things that do work extraordinarily well. And it is a very, very, very responsive helicopter also. Despite its size, this is something that you can really work aggressively if there's something that you need to do. So coming around here, I'm just going to swing on this way, and we'll go ahead and do a little bit of roughness with it. I'm not used to a fly-by-wire helicopter. I think I made that kind of clear a moment ago. And this thing is it's just so weird. I point it where I want to go, and it stays that way. That's just not very helicopter, bro. All right, I'm going to go zip down the runway. I have a little bit of trouble fighting the... Whoa! I feel like I'm fighting the fly-by-wire more than I'm working with the fly-by-wire, but it's just a different philosophy. All right, let's see what we can do as far as holding this thing in a hover. Oh, my goodness. See how it's kind of like jumpy? It's just something I got to get used to. It doesn't feel like a helicopter. I guess that's my complaint. I love it because it's fast. I love it because it's got a nice FMS in it. It's got so many good things in it. But, oh, my goodness, I just feel like I'm fighting it more than I'm actually flying it here. It's not too bad in a hover. It's still got a little bit of the helicopter twitch to it. But because of that fly-by-wire, like if I let go now, see how it's kind of pitching forward on me? Like it does not want to respond in a way that I feel intuitive. Definitely feels like a work in progress kind of a helicopter, but it's just so much fun. This one's kind of tough, not going to lie. I think I'm going to have to put this one. There's so many things I want to work on it, but it's so good. I'm going to put it here. And the reason I'm going to drop it down to this rating is I love the helicopter. It's fast. It's one of my go-to helicopters for so many things, but the performance isn't there. And there's a lot of missing components. And this is definitely something that will improve with time and easily could be my S tier as far as that goes. But at this point, it just needs a little bit more work. Which brings us to the CH-47. Now, this is an immediately identifiable helicopter. And if you ask me, those blades are touching. But like, if you go this way, you could just see how they look like they're touching. I'm not worried about it too much. This is an amazing little helicopter. Now, the folks over at Flight Sim did a nice job putting this sucker together. We've got ourselves a lot of really good systems and a little bit of low frame rate. I love the fact you can do things like open up the back and all that stuff like that. She's always riding with us. I don't get why. One of these reasons. But one of the things that kills me about helicopters like this is there's so many cool buttons and switches and options and components and light switches and radio altimeters and circuit breakers. And none of them do anything. They're just there to basically taunt me, as always. And, that's just so frustrating for a flight simulator like me. Otherwise, it's a CH-47. For those of you not familiar, this is one of the easiest to fly helicopters, in my opinion, ever made. Basically, the only challenge to this helicopter is getting used to the fact that it's so easy to fly. If I apply a little bit of collective, you can see we lift up. But this is my favorite part about this helicopter. All you're doing is riding up on the back tires. Isn't that goofy? So you have to actually push down to go up with this helicopter, which is not unusual, but again, you get a feel for that. This thing, it's just mellow. I'm sitting here holding this really low speed leisurely. I love the fact I have a couple little bayonets sitting there on the front. Yes, I know they're pitot tubes, relax. And of course, we have the ability to stab out the helicopters because that's what they're for. No, they're not. I know. But the nice thing about this helicopter is that it's a very easy helicopter despite its size. The Sky Crane is a really neat helicopter, but it's a little fun with this inertia. This thing is just intuitive. When I point this thing in the direction I want to go, it just goes in that direction. Now, the Airbus helicopter, where I was fighting, the automatic pilot or the flight control system, don't really get it. This thing's just naturally stable because of the way the rotors are configured. And I can just sit here, kind of point it the way that I want, and it goes. Speaking of going, take a look at the top speed on this thing. That is 170 knots, and I guarantee you I've done all 170. If they're going to give me that much airspeed indicator, you better believe I'm going to use every bit of it. Now, to get this thing going, I can tip forward a little bit and just go ahead and increase collective. And incredibly, just look at that. It just goes. It feels like I'm flying in slow motion when I'm really not. And I'm doing 50 knots just like that. And given the sheer size of this helicopter and the fact that it's, kind of interesting as far as, orientation and everything like that goes, it's an incredible being. I've also got a soft spot for internal gauges like this. One thing you'll probably observe, however, is the performance still could be a little bit better. We don't really have anything fancier than a regular GPS 500 on this thing. So it kind of surprises me that it runs like it does. I mean, there's a lot of instrumentation. You also have a second engine. Got all those nice dramatic engine scratches or paint scratches on the side. But this thing is just cool. And this is a nice helicopter. If you're a big VR fan, this thing will serve you very well because it's easy to see out of. It's easy to hold in a hover and everything along those lines. And you can see right now I'm doing about 120 knots. This thing moves. It's atypical of a helicopter to be able to move like this. So let's go ahead and be a little rough with it. Now, kind of see what's going to happen here. I'll go tearing over the trees. I'm going to go ahead and pull back on the stick. I'm going to go ahead and pull the collective up at the same time. We're looking to see what it does. That's actually the best one so far. I have no collective right now. Hear the RPM coming up. Oh, that is nice. Oh, that is real nice. That was good. That was really good. I did not feel any stress at all during that particular mover. This thing is way better than it should be. It's just, oh my goodness, just look at it. Look at it. Just, I don't know. I'm impressed. As you can see, I am impressed with this thing. And one of the things I love too is the fact that it has wheels on it. So if you're a bad person and treat this thing like it's an airplane, you can kind of land on this thing kind of conventionally. In the real world, by the way, this runway is a lot more sketchy looking. They did a nice job in the simulator of making it friendly. But look at this. Because I've got wheels, I could actually lift the nose up like this and touch down. Oh, ground effect. Back wheels. Look at this. Look at this. Hee boop, boop. Skidding, flipping the helicopter. Huh. All right. So this is tough. I will put this one as an A. If you're wondering why I slipped it in here as an A, it's really the fact that there's so many buttons on it that don't do anything. And the fly-by-wire is not fly-by-wire. The controls probably a little more sensitive than that in the real world, but I'm not going to mind. The big thing is it just a little more performance, a little bit more buttons, and this thing would be a little higher up. And that, of course, leaves us with the Cabri G2, this little guy. There's a lot of good things about this helicopter, and there's some things I'm like, I just wish there was one more. This helicopter, of course, features something that many of the other helicopters do not have for some reason, and that is trim. You actually have a trim control in this helicopter, so it gives you the ability to basically trim the helicopter out, make it nice and easy to fly for those long career missions. Another thing they give you is that basic GPS. Gosh, folks, you really got to update this GPS. It's a really good GPS. It just needs a little more bells and whistles. And the default head position, as you can see, is kind of tilted down like this, which makes it a little bit harder. Of course, so we have the same passenger. I think she's following us around at this point. So this is a helicopter. It's a lightweight helicopter. It's only a two-seater. And this is probably the closest I can think of in this game to a helicopter that is like, oh, I've had this experience before. But as you can see, I've just given it just a little tiny bit of collective, and we just sort of glide up just like that. We hold it and hover just like we would expect. We got a little bit of that bounce in and out of ground effect, which is very typical of helicopters that don't have a lot of inertia, which is definitely something this does not have. So I'm feeling pretty good about the hover there. Again, pretty confident. And for those of you who do the single player, you know all about this helicopter. Go ahead and give this thing. This thing's always single player. What am I saying? We'll give it a nice little chip, and you can see it's got that little woo woo woo. It's a technical term for the wobble oscillation along the longitudinal axis. I like my term for it better. All right, we're just going to go getting accelerating. I like how nice and mellow it is. Not a lot of drama going through this thing. I can see my string is way off. I got to give myself a little less foot there. Nice, delightful. I don't see anybody's at Home Depot today. Burger Fitness? Burgeriz? I don't know what that even says. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run this thing through its motions. And one of the things I love about helicopters this scale is they do what you think they need to do. Like you think in a direction. You don't move your controls in that direction. And that's something I really, really appreciate about helicopters. You know, it does not take much to get them going where you want them to go. So you can see here, we're right over here, perfect speed control. I'm not doing anything too chaotic. I'm not pushing the controls forward or anything like that. I have the ability, you know, if I just want to kind of go this direction, I can combine that with a nice little tiny bit of collective. Right foot, believe it or not. Now we're just going to let the helicopter skid. And this thing really, really, really communicates quite nicely. This is nice. This is actually pretty smooth. It's actually very smooth. Most helicopters of this scale are not quite that smooth. You know, I'm missing out on the helicopter twitchiness you get with things this size. Going back to the Cohen Sims comment I made a little bit earlier there, was the fact their helicopters, you get the R-22, that thing is a full-time job to operate, and that's what helicopters of this scale really are like. I know that they have to simplify things for the sakes of our folks who are on a little bit less sophisticated controllers, but I'm always a fan of making that an option in the menu somewhere. Yeah, this is nice. This is real nice. Like, I can do exactly what I want to do without thinking about it. So let's go a little... Who put that sign there? Hey, folks, you guys got to move that. That's a real reckless place for that as I go smacking it to with my rotor. All right, let's see what we can do with this thing. Let's give it a little bit of torque. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Oh, this just goes. I love how you get that nice little display in the bottom left corner. As you can see, it's 78% power. Woo, my stick is far forward right now. Yeah, no problem. Let's see, we got good speed. What do we got here? I'll take a look. Yeah, we're pushing about 60 knots. Again, for a helicopter, that's really fast. Again, you're thinking helicopters this side. I'm also noticing I'm really having to stomp on my right foot here to kind of keep this thing straight, which is a little weird for a helicopter. Give a little bit less pressure. It's feeling pretty good. Let's go ahead and cut the collective. And let's see what it wants to do. Let the nose come up. Will it let me get away with it? Nope. We need a little bit of collective to recover from that boo-boo there. And as we start to slow down, lose that translational lift, it's quite a bit of collective. Oh my goodness, it's a lot of collective. The difference between the forward and that side, it's almost like they have something smoothing out, like the amount of lift you get or whatever. And it creates that really goofy, what is that? Oh, we don't have that much wind today. That was on me. That was interesting. Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Definitely not bad. All right, where are we going to put this thing? All right. This is almost the hardest one of all, because this is something that I like it because it's sensitive. It doesn't have the best range. It's got trim on it. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with an A for that one. And there we have our list. I'll try to make this a little bit bigger so you folks at home can actually see what the heck I've done here. So as of this standing, again, we're in February of 2025 here, I can safely say there's nothing that I put at this level. There's just, you need a little bit more systems, a little bit more usability. There's nothing here yet. We're not quite ready. Everybody in the A tier, they've got some really good stuff. Again, could use a little bit more systems management. That's kind of the biggest thing that seems to be kind of preventing it from getting the S. And it could be a little more sensitive on the controls. RB are chilling here. It's got this weird wobble. I can't figure that out. And a lot of it is kind of limited in access. The H225 has so much potential to be in the S tier. So much potential here, but they just need to finish it, and that's the reality. And I'm putting the Bell 407 down here. I love the Bell 407. It's a fabulous helicopter. It handles great. It's got excellent range, but you can't even start it. And that's just, that's tough to work with. So hopefully everybody enjoyed our little list here. We've gone and done this. If this is something enjoyable, I can always do it with other types of aircraft too, like jets or propeller jockeys. Enjoy.